and Adam, everybody, and thank you for joining us right here on Wake Up Worcester on Charter TV3. Hey, remember to tell your friends that if they can't join us at 6 and 8 a.m., to be sure and check us out at Charter On Demand. That way you can see the show anytime, even when you get home from work. We are very pleased to be joined right now by State Senator Michael Moore. He stops in with us once a month to tell us what's going on. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
The first thing I'd like to hear about is, and I know that this has been a tumultuous issue, to say the least. What is going on with this $35 million loan to Lawrence? How do you feel about it? And are the taxpayers bailing out a city? And do you think that it would be something that would stick?
Well, it's similar to what happened with Chelsea. If you remember years ago when Chelsea was on the verge of going bankrupt, and then the city of Springfield, the state did come in and they put those communities in basically receivership. Some of the problems that we had going on prior to the House voting on this last week was the current mayor, who just got elected, was also the state representative. So we're having a problem. There was a lot of pressure from the legislature that they didn't want to pass this legislation with him serving in both capacities. They didn't think it was right. And
well, it seemed crazy on his part. I mean, as if, one or the other. I guess he was saying was a part-time job that didn't need much of his attention, or they both were somehow.
Yeah, personally, I think it was ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, if you're running to be the chief official of a city that's on the verge of bankruptcy, and then you're saying you're going to do two jobs at the same time and collect both salaries. I think it was outrageous.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of pressure being put on, and rightfully so, from the House of Representatives, and I think there are indications coming from the Senate that we would have a hard time supporting any sort of bailout if the proper fiscal controls weren't put in place, oversight boards, making sure that that there was some accountability with the state funds going there.
Right.
And that's similar to what went on in Chelsea and Springfield.
Yeah. So what do you see, a year or 2 years down the line? How does it play out eventually, Senator? They get the $35 million, and then everything is a rosy picture, or what do they have to do to kind of uphold their end of the bargain?
Well, I think right now, remembering what the House legislation states, is it gives them $35 million to bond.
Right. So
hopefully, with the bonding being approved, that they'll be paying back the bonds, so that they will come out of this similar to like Chelsea did in a good fiscal situation. They, readjusting the foundation for the local government and the tax base, so that they can afford the services that they're providing. They're going to have to look at renegotiating contracts. And as you know, with school contracts, police unions, the various unions, there's going to be a lot of work going on.
Well, and as you pointed out, Chelsea or Springfield, which I think many of us here in the Worcester area are familiar with, because that really dominated the headlines for so long. That takes years to be able to overcome something like this.
Well, and I think you're right, and that's what the public has to understand. I think Springfield, if I remember, just recently came out of it after years. It wasn't a 1 or 2 year fix. This was 3, 4, 5 years that they were in this situation. So, and that's part of the problem, I think, with today. Everyone expects everything resolved within a week.
We gave you $35 million bucks. That's it.
Right, you should be all set.
Sure.
So, no, long term, hopefully the city's financial base and structure will be put back on the proper foundation.
Is there anybody else that you're looking at? This is like in the national or the international scene where we're worried about Greece, we're worried about Italy, we're worried about Portugal and some of these other countries. We have Lawrence. Are we worried about some other cities in Massachusetts?
As far as I know, nothing's been filtered down that we've got any other communities, cities or towns that are in that situation. So. Hopefully that's the only key.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here in Massachusetts, unemployment numbers came out, 9.75, so a slight uptick. What's your take? Is that just because of the time of the year, or do you think that this is a trend?
Hopefully it's just the time of the year. The economists that we've been dealing with have said that this is going to be a long recovery. That this is not the typical recession, or basically almost the depression that we're in, that we're not going to see this rebound in a year or 2 years, that this is going to be a long cycle. We still are below the national average, which is good.
Right.
And we have seen the benchmarks come in, I think 6 out of the last 8 months now. So, there are some indications that the economy is getting better, and hopefully now with spring coming, some of the stimulus projects that the governor has released, that maybe that will get people back to work. I was just with one of the unions the other day, the Carpenters Union, and they were talking about how the town of Grafton just approved a new school, did an override. Well, that's projects that now that they're going to be able to start working.
There's real jobs.
Right. Shrewsbury just had the same. They just had a vote. They did the same thing. So now with spring coming, hopefully these projects will start rolling out, which can help bring those numbers back down again.
CSX, maybe some real jobs in the Worcester area as well. A couple of things that I guess
Walmart 146
and Walmart, of course,
600 jobs.
Yeah, exactly right. A couple of things that I guess worry me about that 9.75 number. One, do you think that we're going to have to readjust our thinking so that we're no longer thinking about unemployment being 3, 4, 5%? Do we have to start thinking of unemployment as 7, 8, 9%?
For the immediate future, possibly. Hopefully, long term, we don't have to. But the funny thing is, if you look at for years, we were all living on credit. You know, everyone's credit cards and the credit bills were so high, and government kept telling us, you know, we got to get our credit down. Now, people are putting more money in the bank, credit's less, and the economy's going.
Yeah,
going
this was some tough love.
Yes, it really was.
over the last year.
So, but it also makes you wonder: was the economy artificially higher because of the credit that everyone was utilizing? I mean, I'm hoping that the unemployment numbers long term will come down, but I do think it's going to be a long cycle that the unemployment rate will stay high for the very near future. I was just at a caucus last week with Michael Widmeyer at the Mass Taxpayers Foundation, and we've all been told that fiscal year 2011, that's going to be the worst. Well, he was just telling us.
Amazing.
No, he was just telling us that fiscal year 2012, we could see another $2 billion structural deficit.
Oh no.
Well, right.
So that could be the worst. Oh my goodness.
So it's you know, how long is the cycle going to continue?
Is it going to keep going? In order for us to come out of it, do you think that Massachusetts, because I keep hearing from people who go, oh, you know, these factory jobs, and, you know, and you're a guy who's in your 50s and you had a great job for 30 years, and now, I mean, that job just is no longer there, and it doesn't seem as if a lot of these factory jobs are really realistically ever going to come back. But I've talked to some people who, you know, are small businessmen. You know, maybe they worked for that factory, and now they've started up their own shop.
Right.
They're only hiring, you know, 3, 4, 5 guys, but they got sales of about $1 million or so. I was talking to a guy the other day who said, I don't know if I want to get any bigger. He goes, because I think, you know, I end up being punished if I get too big. And he felt that Massachusetts wasn't business friendly. If he gets up to like the $5 million range, if he starts having 10 or more employees, he feels, you know, I really have to think about if it's worth it or not for me to grow.
Well, the Beacon Hill Institute actually did a study. And as far as Massachusetts friendliness, we were ranked within the top 8 for the friendliness to business. I think that's, and that's it's perception's reality.
Right.
That's what you hear. You keep hearing that out in the street, that, you know, we're anti-business. I don't really think that's true, but the perception's there. So as I said, perception is reality, and I think we do have to help control some costs for small business.
Yeah.
Being the chair of the Small Business Committee, we've done these forums across the state. You keep hearing there's no capital out there so they can use for investments. Health insurance is high. We just had a meeting last week with Senate Ways and Means, myself, Senator Richard Moore, Senator Bonacani, and Senator Bador. There's 2 health insurance bills filed. One's the Affordable Health Care Plan, which is Richard Moore is the chief sponsor. I'm a co-sponsor, which would affect businesses 50 employees or under, where you would cap Medicare at 110% reimbursements, and you limit the companies to 2% surpluses, and it's only in effect until right now. The healthcare finance reform that was passed calls for a commission to look at the costs and the overall reforms that were made. That sunsets in, I think it's in 3 years. Well, this would go in effect. It would be through the healthcare connector. This would also sunset in at the same time that the other plan calls for. So it's a way that we are looking at actually trying to control costs. The other plan that's out there is the Associated Health Plan, which would allow small businesses to join, say, the Chamber of Commerce or a retail association, and allow for group purchasing of health care. So
ways to help the small businessman,
right,
and that is what's needed.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the cost so that if they do have some extra money, that they can hire someone, that they've got the resources to do it.
More with State Senator Michael Moore straight ahead on Wake Up